My name is Dr. Sally Grissom, and I invented time travel. That wasn't my goal, but then one minute I'm in my lab, and the next I'm in the middle of a 1940s military experiment. The Office of Developed Anomalous Resources took my invention and immediately did what shadowy government agencies do, turned it into a weapon for the dawning Cold War. It's all my new friends and I can do to make sure Odar doesn't tear the fabric of space-time apart at the seams. And if you can hear this, then maybe, just maybe, we didn't fuck it all up.
Off the one hey, what's going on? We never synchronize that.
What up, though? What's going on?
Welcome to another episode of the greatest podcast in the world.
Right.
I often wonder. It's your boy Walkamar in the building. We got Detroit Mel right here.
What's good?
Our sister Black Baba Walters, BB, is out getting that bag. She had to work today. So
Get that money.
Go get that money, sis. We love you. But we are going to keep the show rolling for sure.
Right.
We got a great show lined up for you.
Great
for
show.
Our audience today. Great show. We'll get to that in just a second, but let's get the preliminaries. You know, all the house cleaning shit that pays the bills.
Right.
Going over to the website I often wonder
19.com.
That's we get all the information of where we are at platform wise, from Spotify,
Right.
Facebook, Instagram,
Right.
Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, streaming here, streaming there.
Right.
We-
OnlyFans.
Yeah. No, you got an OnlyFans?
You
I
have
didn't know
an
about.
IOW OnlyFans?
How much you charging and what are you exactly doing on that OnlyFans?
Hey, don't worry about that. I'm trying to make this money. I got mouths to
You
feed.
gotta shake it till you make it.
I got them in different area codes.
Enough of you. But no, seriously.
Right.
Go to the website. We got all the information you need. Of course,
Right.
you always go get the merch.
Got the merch.
Yep, got the merch. And then most importantly, if you are an Apple or an iOS user, go on over to your Apple store, download the IOW Network Radio app. It's up, it's running. And also, Android users, go to your Google Play Store, and you can get the IOW Network Radio app as well. So it's available on both platforms. A little tricky on the Android Google Play, just I.O.W. Network, no space. We'll get that fixed, but type it in, the app should pop up. It's available.
Right.
But to today's show, matter of fact, let's give our audience a background on how we came about today's show.
Everybody know we always mention L. Jeffrey Moore, and
great friend to the show.
Great friend to the show, great contributor to the radio station.
Yep, L. Jeffrey presents.
And we made a great connection with him from the very beginning. You know, we did an interview with him, and we kind of like made a good connection, and we've been chopping it up ever since. And he happened to mention a couple of podcasts he was on. You know, and he said he had talked about White Vault, and then he said Ars Paradoxica. I was like, oh, okay, you can go check them out, show some support. And like Lamar had mentioned earlier, since the first episode, it was like crack cocaine. I was hooked. Yeah, I was hooked. I mean, here's why I say the element of any good entertainment is when you can either identify with a character, when you can hate the person that's supposed to be hate, love the person that's supposed to be loved. You know what I'm saying?
Your heroes and your villains,
right?
Yeah,
and root for the people who need to be rooted for. And I think they achieved all those goals in the podcast. And so, I mean, one time I think I listened to this one like I did the other one for 10 hours straight.
Yeah.
Because I just had to, okay, what's happening next?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna turn it off. I got what's going on with Sally? What's going on with, and I just kind of, and it's got you hooked. It's got a little twists and turns and going up and down hills, around corners.
Roller coaster.
And I really enjoyed it. So I said, you know what? I gotta get them on the show.
Yep.
I gotta talk to them. I want to see, what was in their mind when they created this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so without further ado, we're gonna bring on Mr. Misha Stanton and Daniel Manny, the creators of Ars Paradoxica.
Hello.
Welcome, fellas.
Hello.
How you doing?
How y'all doing?
We are doing fantastic. It's a pleasure to have you all on the show because you have made two great friends for sure over here.
Right.
With the content that you have created. So thank you, most of all. Thank you for taking the time out and joining us. So let's get busy. How did y'all come up with such great content? Like in your minds, how did y'all come up with this?
Was it peyote?
No, but it was a lot of weed. I will say it was a lot of weed. It was a lot.
Now you're talking my language.
I don't know. Misha and I have we're good friends all throughout college, and we would constantly, get high and talk about science fiction shit. And Misha's an audio designer, and so one time I was realized that nobody listened to our college's like radio station after dark. And you could pretty much, if you could get into the radio station before they lock the doors, you could play whatever you want, and no one is there to stop you, and no one was there to listen. So it's like, Misha, do you want to make a fake like a numbers station, like the numbers,
like a weird ass code on the radio,
like you just like tuned into some spy's secret message somehow. And we did that, and we had a lot of fun making this thing that basically a prank that no one ever heard. And then we kept talking about doing it more and more. And then, we just started asking the questions like, oh, why did this happen? Why would this be like this? And we quickly started talking about time travel and alternate histories. And
God, for like 5 years, we would just talk about it in the middle of conversations with other people, and our friends would be like, oh, they're doing their thing again. They're doing that weird thing.
Yeah, we had our weird thing for just years, just talking about it forever. And then, I don't know, it was at the end of college, and Misha was doing their own stuff. I was just gotten out of school, and we were like, what do we do with this? Because instead of learning anything in college, we just have like a science fiction universe nobody knows about. Like, we just became big fans of something that doesn't exist. So we're like, well, I think we have to make this thing. And time passes. We went through a lot of like changes and revisions, and then you have the first season of Ars, and which I'm really proud of.
You should be very proud of.
We started after that we started expanding. That's when we met Jeff. Actually, Misha, I believe you knew Jeff from other theater stuff.
So actually, no, Jeff was introduced to us through one of the main cast members of season 1.
Oh,
I believe that Jeff and the guy who played Anthony Partridge were co-workers. And so he introduced us to Jeff, who came on in season 2 and became one of our main characters. Like, our cast got really big by the end. We only had 3 seasons, but by the end we had a pretty big ensemble. Yeah. So we kept expanding, and that meant like, well, we have to have a bigger expanded universe to put all these characters in. And we kept going, and eventually in the last season, like, we send them to Germany and Russia, and we almost blew up a city. And
right.
It's fantastic. So I'm a connoisseur of marijuana as well. Him not so much. Is that kind of one of your things that kind of help stimulate your mind to help create, certain things and aspects of the show?
I would say that it like just sort of created a judgment-free zone where we could say whatever dumb stuff, and then like follow it as far as we could follow it.
Okay.
That's a really good question, and one that, like, in the years that we've been talking about making the show, no one has ever asked us.
Yeah. But to be fair, between us starting and us finishing, weed became legal in all of the states that we made it in, except for California. So so that could be part of it. But yeah, I think that it helps give that sort of, judgment free zone, and it also it just sort of it doesn't necessarily open the mind, but you can just start pontificating and really go off on a whole series of tangents before you end up back where you are.
Now that is true. That is definitely true, because
if you ever end up back where you started.
yeah. You'll never end up where you started, because the reason what the point of that question, because I find myself to always kind of get in my groove a little bit easier and be able to pull out all the creative, nuances of whatever I'm doing. Because, I cook, and so does he.
Right.
And, I find myself to create some of my best dishes, and, on marijuana, what can I say?
I just put you in a food mindset, honestly.
It does. Oh yeah, not because of the munchies, but it just helps me out.
You start putting stuff together in your head different.
Yeah, well, so that's what, like, I vibe with what you said about getting into a groove. Like, we definitely picked a groove and then got into it for 5 years before we made the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We were like, oh, we're high. It must be that time to talk about time travel.
I
love it.
Works for me.
Yeah, it works for me.
There was this. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I wasn't gonna cut you off. But I was just gonna say I'm not a connoisseur, but I think I was just naturally born with something missing in my brain. So I was always crazy from the get-go.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any ambitions to lose or to loosen.
I can attest to that.
I always spoke my mind from a child up, and I always had a weird way of looking at life and stuff like that.
Oh, I see why you like Sally.
Right. That's why I like Sally. And I think I always was a curious person. And so, and that curiosity always led to asking maybe questions that normal people wouldn't ask. But, if I wanted to know something, I just felt I would ask. And then leading that into your show, I saw that, like you said, in Sally. And that's why I connected. And I just saw it in the show as a whole, because it just made you like go down, for lack of a better word, certain rabbit holes. And as you went down those rabbit holes, and when you thought you knew it was at the end of that tunnel, there was a fork in the road, and you had to, in your mind, okay, which way is he gonna go with this one? And then when you thought it was left,
it was right.
It ended up being right. And the time you thought it was gonna be right, it ended up being left. And I think that's what makes the show so great, is that you try to anticipate where's the next change gonna be, or what the next twist is gonna be. And it's always like, I never would have thought of that, even with the ending.
When don't spoil it, because I'm not gonna tell you there. I'm not
when I
all the
got
way
to the
finished with
ending,
it.
I was like, oh, okay.
Well, like I mentioned before, Misha and I we're at least once, maybe not now, but we're the world's biggest fans of this thing. And so I think at every point in the creative process, we just decided, or like, we're constantly thinking, oh, this is the show that I want to see. So like, where do I want to see a Zag? Like, where does my intuitions take this? And then, like, maybe not do what my intuition says. A lot of times my intuition is wrong, or my intuition was like, I had a very good idea of what the end of again, not to talk about specifically, but a very good ending of what the show was going to be from an early time.
Right.
And what is actually in the episode is basically the exact opposite, like fundamentally the exact opposite thing of what we had planned, because I had this one image of what was supposed to happen in my head, and then over the course of making the show, it turns out that what was the necessary thing to do there was again the opposite.
Yeah, I think that also was the benefit of bringing in we did season 1 basically ourselves.
Okay.
And then in season 2, we brought on a bunch of new writers who were all fans of the show, but all from different perspectives. And hearing what they liked about the show and what interested them kind of influenced the way that the trajectory of the show. Such that like when it became time to write the ending, we revisited. We were like, hey, remember that ending we wrote before we wrote the beginning of the show? Does it still work? And it turned out that like it didn't.
I like that because you're paying attention to the details of it. And so you're saying when you get to the ending, then you're like, wait, hold up, how do we get here? And let's go back. Honestly, I wish you guys would write for WWE because they're killing my wrestling shit. No, literally, they're killing it.
One of our writers is a huge WWE fan. I'm sure.
See, because I'm a wrestling geek, and like the writing. Sometimes I'm just like, to get to this result, hey, how did you get here? Sometimes they just throw stuff together. So, as a fan of your show, that it makes that makes sense to how did you get to the ending, like what led up to it, and it's details like that is what makes this show phenomenal.
Hold that thought. It's time for our first break.
Do you feel sluggish and tired? Not getting enough sleep? Are you looking for a more holistic and natural approach to your health and wellness? Well, the Healing Component has just what you're looking for. Our body butters, bath bombs, teas, and other CBD products will assist you on your journey to holistic health. Follow us on Instagram at The Healing Component.
My name is Dr. Sally Grissom, and I invented time travel. That wasn't my goal, but then one minute I'm in my lab, and the next I'm in the middle of a 1940s military experiment. The Office of Developed Anomalous Resources took my invention and immediately did what shadowy government agencies do, turned it into a weapon for the dawning Cold War. It's all my new friends and I can do to make sure Odar doesn't tear the fabric of space-time apart at the seams. And if you can hear this, then maybe, just maybe, we didn't fuck it all up. But I wouldn't bet money on it.
And we are back.
We are back with the creators of Ars Paradoxica, Misha Stanton and Daniel Manning.
Right.
We're having a great conversation, of course. So Sally right there, that's your favorite character for sure.
Sally and Petra are my two favorites.
Sally and Petra.
Yeah.
Well, and of course Jeff, because he's a friend of ours, but
Jeff is a friend of ours. So hey, what's the inspiration behind Sally's character development?
Oh, this one takes some interesting turns. So, I mean, at the very very basic level, Sally Grissom is like a mind meld fusion of me, Misha, and Kristen DiMercurio.
And like also an actual physicist that knows anything.
And like a physicist.
Because all of us are very stupid.
We all have arts degrees and shit. Like it's nothing. And we had actually initially envisioned this character to be a man, and had like a version of the pilot written with John Grissom instead of Sally Grissom. And there was things weren't that different. But
I'm curious to see how that would have went.
There is a difference there, and Misha is the one who actually came to me and was like, "Hey, have you ever thought about?" We had to recast the character for some weird reasons. I forgot. And actually, for whatever, we had to get a new actor, and at that point we had been in the middle of basically recasting everything. Everyone got a new name. Everyone we pushed around a lot of stuff, and in the middle of that point, Misha asked, like, "Hey, what about having a female protagonist?" And I was very into the idea. Misha, if you want to go into more of that, you can if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I think the pilot was pretty well in like a gender neutral place.
Yeah.
And we were looking for people to audition, and I was thinking of actors that I knew, because I come from a theater background, which is kind of like how I cast the show. And then I was like, hey, like, what if we also auditioned women alongside men, and like we just see what shakes out. And then we found Kristen, who also went to school with us, and who like we had some mutual friends with, and I was kind of aware that she was a very good actor, and she like serendipitously was like, posted in our little alumni group. She was like, "Hey, I kind of want to get into voice acting. Does anybody know any classes we could take?" And I was like, "Heck no! But do you want to be the lead in our show?"
Yeah, we'll be something better than that.
Yeah, so we auditioned her, and she came in. I think we recorded like the first 6 episodes, like the first weekend we officially met. We just like did all of them in 2 days.
Yeah, we like paid her in chili and sleeping on our couch.
Better be some damn good chili.
It was very
chili.
good chili.
I still make that chili recipe. It's good.
Hey, we'll have to, bounce some minds or have a chili cook-off.
But yeah, the actress was a Kristen DiMercurio. How you say
Kristen
that?
DiMercurio.
Yeah, I think she did a wonderful job of Sally.
She's amazing.
She's incredible.
She Ars Paradoxica was her first gig, but she's a full-time voiceover actor now.
Okay.
Like she flipped that into a full voiceover career, and like
That's great
she
for her.
does.
Yeah.
She
Right,
does
great for her.
industrial. She does a ton of audio dramas. She does audiobooks for like several big publishers. She's amazing.
She
Okay.
does like phone trees, like for electronic,
God.
press 2.
Yeah.
For
Okay.
human resources, press 7.
So this is a fun story, and I'm just gonna waste a little time a little bit. But Dan and I also play Dungeons and Dragons together.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I run the game, and I made them go up against Verizon Wireless, the Eldritch God, who controls magic. And so when it was time to face Verizon Wireless, this demon overlord, I got Kristen to come in and play it so that she could do her like phone tree voice, but in an evil way. It was excellent.
I would love to have seen that.
Oh, it is very good. She's fantastic.
Yeah, she was great. I mean, like I kind of prefaced it at the beginning. One of the things about something that's created, like what you guys doing, if you can connect with that character.
Mhm.
And sometimes Sally did some stuff like, "Why are you doing that, Sally?" And then other times it's like, "Okay, I'm with you, Sally, on that one." And it made me like, she took me on this roller coaster.
Mhm.
With her character, it was like, I kind of like you, Sally. Okay, I'm kind of upset with you about this one, Sally.
You got emotionally involved, bro.
Yeah, I mean, that's what makes of a
Yeah.
good story.
Oh, yeah.
When
Yeah.
it sucks you in like that, and you like,
And
okay. I think go ahead, Misha.
Oh, I think that was like the big draw for us writing Sally, was like we were always going to write her as a real person, and real people make bad decisions sometimes.
Right. Yes.
I think that like
I think
even
we
it,
get
yeah.
true to that. We
Right.
make
Yeah.
bad decisions.
And I think like as the show
I'm
grows,
still paying child support for that.
and I think as the show grew, we kind of added a couple of secondary protagonists. Petra that you mentioned. Also,
Right.
like my favorite character was Esther Roberts.
Oh yeah, I like Esther.
and-
Yeah.
And like the more we wrote them, the more we were also like, okay, these people also sometimes do bad things for good reasons,
Right.
or
Yeah.
things that they think are good reasons. And like sometimes two people on the side of a conflict both have good reasons to be doing what they're doing,
Right.
and it sucks when they fight.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what? And now that you said that, the one thing, a couple of things I like about Esther Roberts, when you first introduced to her, I had made one decision on how I thought she was. And then when you went a little further down,
And change the whole perspective.
I'm like, okay, Esther, I don't know if I like you as much. But then as you start digging into who she was as a person, and I like the fact that you made her being, a part of LGBTQ community, it made it more real. Because, you have people that in our everyday lives, and not everybody are heterosexual. Not everybody are one way. They have these complex parts in their lives that make who they are.
Oh.
And if go ahead, Misha, I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh,
'Cause
well,
I can
was
talk
also
for days.
that was also really important to us as the creators, because I'm pretty sure that like the vast majority of people who made Ars Paradoxica are queer in some regard.
Right.
Me certainly, and like I wanted to see myself in there. I know we existed in the 1940s. Don't lie to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You're right. You're right.
Right. And I like the fact that how you made it. So speaking of what you said about the 1940s, how would someone queer in the 1940s be? Compared to now. And I like how you made it where, okay, this seems real. Because
Thank you.
everybody wasn't out I'm queer and I'm happy I'm out of the closet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
at that time,
It wasn't so free.
it wasn't so free with
Yeah.
it.
And that's a big thing that I really like about Esther as a character is that like she is queer and she doesn't really apologize for it, but also she's incredibly ambitious and she knows being out will
Yeah.
stifle that.
Right.
And so
right.
it like it and right. So again, like she's ambitious to like run the shadowy arm of the US government. So that's not super great. But she's also ambitious to be the highest ranking woman, queer
Mhm.
person, and Jew in American history.
Right.
Wow.
So
right.
like she has all these pressures and like again, sometimes you do bad things for what seem like good reasons.
Yeah.
Right. You're right.
She's
You're
a
right.
Well, like
barrier breaker.
she's
Mhm.
complicated. She's messy. She's not like she's not Esther Roberts is not like, oh, this person, this woman is a lesbian in the past. That's sad because
Right.
she can't be out. Because
Right.
again, she is extremely high ranking, and like
Mhm.
when stuff breaks bad for her, like it breaks bad for her because of her bad decisions,
Yeah.
not
Right.
necessarily because like society hates her, even
Right.
though on some a lot of levels they did at the time.
Right. And I love that about all your characters. You know, they
Well
were all
developed.
they were well developed.
Yeah.
You know,
With thought.
because we as human beings are complex creatures.
Yeah.
Period. You know, no matter what our sexual orientation is, no matter what our race is, no matter what country we come from, we all are complicated human beings.
Flawed
We're
individuals.
flawed in various ways.
Yeah.
You know, no matter you can take the greatest person in history and you can see the flaws all the way down in them. You know, and I think when you look at TV in the past or entertainment in the past, everyone was written from a standpoint of this perfect person. You didn't see a lot of depth in characters back then. You know, it was like, you knew the good guy was good. He wore the white hat. The bad guy wore the black hat. And that's how you knew who was good, who was bad. And pretty much they stuck to these standards and very seldom they move into the gray area. You know, but that's not how people are.
Yeah.
We majority live in gray area.
Mhm.
You know, that's just how we are as people. And that's why I loved about, you know, how y'all wrote the characters. And, you know, time travel is one of those things that, you know, in my mind, I would think of it as one way, but I like how you explained everything. Even if you explained it through a character saying something, or you explained it through the situation, we understood why you couldn't go this way because of time travel, or why you could go this way because, you know, it wasn't like left to chance.
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
It was one of my big like bugbears that like we had to have like a real time travel science. Maybe not obviously not something that you could literally do, because one of the things I did learning a lot of science for Ars Paradoxica is that definitely for sure time travel is impossible. I know that probably doesn't mean a ton to you or me, really. It doesn't mean a lot to anyone, but it turns out, yeah, absolutely. If there's one thing science taught me is that you can't do time travel. But what I really wanted out of that is for it to feel like a science, to feel like these people are discovering something and they're learning as time goes by, and they have some guesses that are right and some guesses that are wrong. It's not just like, Sally Grissom appears in the past, and then in a couple weeks, everyone's got a bunch of time machines, and we've all got cool future computers, even though it's the 1940s. I kept thinking that would be an easy out. Like one of my first, like the first like piece of notes that I ever had for writing the story of Ars was a document, and at the top of the document I wrote like, time travel is bad for you. And so like in basically every facet of Ars Paradoxica, it's like time travel is bad for you. It like either physically harms you, or it physically harms history, or it just like makes you mentally worse, makes you spiritually worse, certainly. Like the ability to just fix all your problems, that like never works out. And so, yeah, again, time travel, it's like very complicated. And I think one of our me and Misha's biggest issues with it was just like making that audible and making it so you could understand what's going on. Cause we can't literally have someone go and put a chalkboard and just like draw a bunch of arrows to circles.
So that's funny. This is like only a minor spoiler because it happens in like the 3rd episode. But basically, there's a part of season 1 where like the plot of the episode is they're trying to design a demonstration for like higher ups so that they'll keep getting funded, and it turns out that like in trying to write a demonstration, we found it really hard to write what that would be. So we just put that on the characters, and we were like, "Yep, they can't figure it out either," because we couldn't figure it out. But then like that changed the entire trajectory of the show, because that means they had to lose their funding, which like led to the rest of season 1 and 2, and like that's why like it completely changed how the show went. I think that was a big thing that Dan was the head writer, and I was sort of like the continuity checker once we brought a bigger writing team on. And I think that was one big thing that I was focused on, was like, I know you want to do cool plot stuff, I know you want to do cool story stuff, but if it doesn't make sense with the time travel, they're going to have to change it. Like the time travel logic overrode doing cool stuff sometimes, which I mean, I think that like constraints like breed creativity sometimes. Like if you draw a line on the page, it's easier to draw around a line than it is to draw on a blank page. So sometimes that mandate would like push people in more interesting directions.
Okay, I like that.
That's pretty cool.
Hold that thought, Misha. It's time for our second break.
Second break. We right back.
Looking for a great home cooked meal and you don't have time to prepare it? Well, your solution is here. Mad Mac Catering. The food is made with love and with a touch of soul. Contact us at 704-516-4334 or on Twitter at SmadMac, or the website www.madmax.net. That's www.madmacs.net.
Digging into hard science and is another way to give yourself hard limits when you're writing. That was a big part of my job on the show as the story editor, was sort of, later on the series when we got more writers in, I would, they would write their individual scripts, and I would go through with a red pen and say, hey, this isn't how the science works, and it's not how the science works in such a way that you need to change the plot of this episode. The plot was always slave to the rule.
And we are back.
Welcome back to the Often Wonder podcast. We are having a fantastic conversation with the creators of Ars Paradoxica, Misha Stanton and Daniel Manning. One question I wanted to ask, how important was it to keep the integrity of the actual time that you're in? Because you brought up things like the Manhattan Project. You threw J. Edgar Hoover's name in there, Truman's name in there. How important was that to the plot overall of the story?
So important. The first Ars Paradoxica thing that we ever did was long before Ars Paradoxica, but it was sort of in this time travel-y like agency world. Was we did a alternate history where Kennedy wasn't assassinated, and that like in this alternate timeline ends with I think Ronald Reagan nukes the moon. In the 70s or 80s, and that's fun. Well, that's great because we love that. But like Misha seriously like forced me to walk through each step of this history, like how you get there and how we did that. And I think honestly, it was a good thing in the long run because, as Misha said before, I think those restraints helped us make a more interesting story, because we can't just say, oh, this thing that I think would be cool or this thing that I think would be super emotionally satisfying. If it doesn't work with the history, either the history has to be changed for whatever plot reason, or we should go towards the history. I mean, like one of our characters, Bill Donovan, the sort of the big antagonist of the first season, he's a real guy. He's a real character. We have a couple. There is a whole big side plot with about Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. I'm so sorry. We had to cut Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. Were, if you as a listener not familiar with them, they're two two people who were executed for the government for spying for the Soviet Union, and maybe only one of them was. At best, maybe one of them was. Both of them were definitely killed, though. It was very bad.
It was necessary.
Well, that's another thing I think that like went into the core of making the show was playing with and in history. One of the, this came out of like us watching a bunch of movies and being like, I want to make a thing that we want to see. But one of those pieces of media that Dan really brought to the table was the Assassin's Creed franchise, which goes through history and makes every conspiracy theory real and all sort of one continuity.
Yeah, there's definitely a idea of like making a unified conspiracy theory. So like every weird thing that's ever happened in American history, it's just time travel. It's just, well, why did those guys die? Oh, it's time travel. Like, how'd we get to the moon? Time travel. Like, what happened with JFK? There's a whole time travel thing. Don't worry about it. And that's fun because that gives you a lot of sort of narrows you can swim down and like find places. Like, again, one of the first things we did was in the Apollo 1 disaster where there was a fire on the launch of this test pad, and a bunch of astronauts, including Virgil Gus Grissom, died. One of our earliest things was about there's this real life guy named Thomas Barron who wrote a safety report about how the Apollo 1 like launch vehicle or whatever was extremely unsafe, and then there's this tragic fire, a bunch of people die, and this guy had this safety report that nobody read and was brought up in front of Congress to testify. And as he's testifying, he's like, oh yeah, and I have a 500-page version of this report about how whack the safety violations are. And then less than a week later, he leaves his car on the train tracks with him and his wife and children inside. They're hit by a train and they all die.
Wow.
And so
we were like time travel.
That's definitely, you were killed by a time travel assassin. You were a time travel guy who knew this was going to go wrong and tried to go public about it. So the time travel people killed him. But that's just one of the examples of like one of the many, like you start seeing, like when you start looking at any like big event, especially ones that people get conspiracy-y about, you can really start seeing, some inconsistencies that you can really jump into and play around with. And that might not mean that the main truth of the matter isn't true, but it does mean that you can have a little more fun with it.
Right. So I wanted to ask you, one of the things I was curious about is when you got ready to mention like modern time, you always bleeped it out. Is there a reason why?
Yes, because we wanted to feel like whatever year it is the modern day. Like we had Sally, whenever Sally was saying it, we had it to be 2017. 17 being because it's the longest.
It's just like a longer. It's like a longer number.
So we were writing and recording it in 2015, and so I liked the idea of it being kind of in the future, but like not that far. Like technically, it's in the future, but she's from our present. But we bleep it out because 2017 was now 4 years ago.
Well, but like also like it was a nice thing to think about, but also like 2020 blew that out of the water. She is very clearly living in a world where 2020 didn't happen.
Right. That's true.
I mean, that's one of the things that I like about Sally Grissom is that there are a couple clues if you pay attention that she's not from our timeline. She is a different she's from the 21st century and she's from America, but she's not from the same 21st century America we have. I think she mentions in an episode that the movie Crossroads with Britney Spears, in her timeline it starred Mandy Moore instead of Britney Spears.
Right.
So there are some things that are different. The main one that she works at the superconducting super collider.
Which is a real project.
Texas.
That's a real project that got defunded in the 90s.
Yeah.
So the difference being that in her world it still works and they hired her.
It would be it's like the Large Hadron Collider, but it would be about like 1.5 times the size of the LHC. But that again, it fell apart in the 90s. But in Sally's timeline, it's real, and so she's a particle physicist in Texas.
How much research did you all put into building certain aspects of your storyline, like you said, the project that just got defunded in the 90s, or how much access did you have to get certain things like that?
I mean, if like from my perspective, it was just a lot of nights where we stayed up until 3 a.m. smoking weed, looking on Wikipedia. And
Yeah.
down the hole. Like you'd be surprised how much quantum physics you can learn on Wikipedia.
And being high.
Yeah. That's
hilarious.
completely right. That's absolutely correct.
That's
Like I read a
hilarious.
couple books, but that's mostly it.
Yeah. Google's a lifesaver, bro.
Google is the lifesaver.
So I got through college.
At this point, you can perform open heart surgery. Look at it messing with Google, bro.
YouTube, why are you putting an ad on the open heart surgery tutorial? What are you doing?
Oh my
love it.
God. I'm sorry. I keep getting texts. I'm trying to ignore it.
No, so there was one character that kind of, especially in season 1, Chet Wickman.
Oh, yes.
Like I understand he's a Boy Scout kind of guy, Mr. Do-Gooder, but he seems more, I guess, empathetic to Sally. He's drawn to her. Like,
Keep listening.
huh?
Just keep listening.
Just keep listening. No, but I'm saying, like, because I'm almost finished with season 1, so it's like, wow, it's like I feel like he's maybe I need to finish it, but just
No,
going
go ahead
based
with your
off.
question. I'm
I'm
not
just
gonna
saying.
Let me dial my brain to season 1 only. Got it. Okay, got it.
No.
But without spoiling something, I want to say this. I like how you showed the progression of characters. And you see how this particular project and how it affected people as it went on. And almost kind of like that saying, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Because as people start getting certain levels of power and dealing more with the time traveling, you start seeing, and I'm trying to dance around without revealing something.
No, trust me. You won't spoil anything because I'm gonna still listen all the way through it.
But you start to see how the interaction with certain things changed them.
Okay, I'm gonna say this. I can see because I'm at that point where you can see that he's that Chet is starting to because at first he's pretty much the only one that actually believes that Sally is from the future. And was pretty much being, a person that she can, kind of explain the situation she's dealing with.
Right.
And so he's being very understanding of that, but he's kind of, I guess, slowly keeping her secret. So I think that's where I'm at. But he's starting to. No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Misha.
Well, so I think that's, and Dan, like, this is really more your department, so jump in when you want. But like, I think that was a big part of how we wrote, like, who was in charge at any particular time of, like, at first we had Bill Donovan, who was very much like, how can I use this to benefit me personally?
Right.
And so as an answer to that, Chet Wickman was someone who cared about the people around him very deeply, but still wanted the same goals. And then Esther Roberts came in and was like, well, you're too emotional, and this is how we can do things that is, like, a little more calculated. And so every iteration of it was showing, like, a response to the previous regime, but how that also wasn't the right answer, because in the end, the right answer was just like time travel's bad for everyone.
I think, I think that's absolutely right. I think it was important that we, like, I don't know, Misha and I are fairly, let's say, left-leaning, as very, very, to put it very lightly.
Okay.
And so it was always important that we were constantly asking ourselves, like, who is the person in charge? Who is the power here? How are they wielding the power? And how's, like, the power wielding them? Like, how is this ability? How does it change you as much as you've changed that? And I think that was something that I think was really important about Sally Grissom, was that like, as I said before, Sally Grissom, as there's a lot of me in there and there's a lot of Misha in there, and being in the position that Sally Grissom is all of us. The position that she's in is a difficult position, because you do have to say, like, sure, okay, you invented time travel, that's basically magic, like, that's super cool, but the only people who are going to get you to let you work on it at all are people who are going to use it for terrible things.
Yeah.
And the only people who, and like, even to let you in the room, and like, and also outside of that, what are you going to do? Go, like, you can't go home, like you can't, you're kind of stuck in this place, but also you have this knowledge that the thing that you're doing is being used for bad things.
Yeah. I think that's what I love about it, is because you're not supposed, nobody knows you exist.
Yeah.
You're not real.
Right. So I want to change gears a little bit, and it's something I like to ask people when I interview them. Is, so if we was at a coffee shop sitting down talking, what would we talk about? We'll start with you, Misha.
If we're sitting at a coffee shop, what would we talk about? Geez. I don't know. Probably like the movies and TV and video games that I'm consuming nowadays.
Okay.
I have like very consumptive media habits, and I really like talking about the stuff I watch.
So what are you watching now?
Right now I'm watching Invincible on Amazon.
Oh, that's great. Oh my God, that is
it's
great.
really good. I'm really
That is
digging
great.
it. It's a little violent for me. I have like some triggers around like gore and blood trauma to the body, but like I'm powering through it because it's really good.
Yeah.
It is good.
Yeah,
it is good.
Everybody's been talking about that.
What about you, Dan?
I don't know. I feel like I'd probably get sidetracked talking about food. As much as I'd probably be like Misha and talk about whatever movie I just saw, I would honestly get distracted talking about the croissants in the window or something. Yeah, like, you know, I gotta be honest, I'm just a hungry person, and so I'd probably talk about whatever thing I've been up to lately, which is mostly cold brewing coffee, but then try to tell someone to watch Hannibal, which is mostly what I do to people.
Oh my God, all the food on Hannibal looks so good though.
Talking about TV shows with food in it.
So I didn't get into the second season. I watched the first season. The first season was phenomenal.
Hannibal?
Yeah, it was phenomenal. I didn't really get into the second season. I started like watching the first one. I didn't get into it. I don't know if the second one's good or not, but the first season, it held my attention the whole time.
Oh, then go back for season 2. It's great. It's super cool. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it.
And season 3 is incredible. Half of it takes place in Italy. They like literally like moved. They moved the cast to Italy and have an Italian production team, and it's just really pretty. If you like Florence, it's a lot of great food, a lot of great murder.
I see you. A lot of your stuff is centered around food there, Dan.
I'm a fat guy. I'm hungry.
No worries. We're cooks. We are not skinny.
Right. We like to eat.
We like to eat. So no worry. No judgment.
Right.
We're in the same boat.
But I just want to say that, speaking of Hannibal, the one thing I like about Hannibal, especially at the end, none of the good guys, quote unquote good guys, survived.
Yeah.
And I like that because I expected Will to live. I mean, I just thought he was going to live some kind of way. He got killed, and I expected the other good guy to live. He got killed. So I think that, to me, I like shows that's outside the norm, and I think that's why I like that drew me to Hannibal. Because I was like, okay, I'm thinking that in my mind, okay, I know some kind of way somebody will come in at the end.
Hey, there's a sacrifice everywhere.
It was like, that didn't happen.
Hey, there's a sacrifice everywhere.
Right.
Think a lot about a bunch of years ago, I had a friend who's a lot more into fantasy novels than I do. Tell me about this book series called A Song of Ice and Fire. And again, this was a long time ago.
Okay.
And he's talking about how like the end of the first book is like this big moment. Now I'm talking about Game of Thrones. I'm talking about the first season of Game of Thrones. We've all seen Game of Thrones. This is 10 years ago. I'm just going to talk about it.
Yeah,
So the big climactic moment at the end of season 1 of Game of Thrones is that they killed Ned Stark. That there's this big moment where all the pieces are set up for like a big climactic thing where like Arya runs in or something, and we're gonna stop the murder because like this guy is the protagonist. He's the fantasy hero. He's the guy who's supposed to be king here, but they don't save him because that's not how the world works.
Right.
Because he's like, what is this child gonna do? Kill a bunch of people just to get through to stop one guy? Like there's no way to ever save him. And like that was this moment where you like pass through the veil, where the show kind of like steps through and is like, oh, this is not your dad's fantasy.
We are
This
not in
is-
Kansas anymore.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a similar thing to Hannibal, where like there is this it resists saying, oh, the good guys just win here, and instead is like, oh, who's the person in power, like who's planned the best, and the answer to that is almost always Hannibal Lecter.
But can we say Hannibal is really bad? I mean, just why are we gonna judge him on his eating choices?
You know what? Well, outside of the murder stuff, I think he's okay. I think
it all looks so delicious.
Right, he makes it look so great. Is that liver you got there?
So good.
Hey, liver none used to slap back in the days.
Hey, my mom when we growing up, we used to eat chitlins.
I
I'm just saying, knows our preface with used to eat chitlins. And Hannibal, he eating real intestines.
Yeah, once I found out chitlins was pig booty noodles, I was like, yeah, I'm good on that.
I feel like Hannibal Lecter just desperately wants somebody to catch him so that finally people understand that he's been making puns this whole time. He's just been joking with everyone. It's like, it'll be nice to eat you, and then now you can be like, oh, you're trying to eat me. You're Hannibal. Fuck, that was funny.
How did I miss that?
But for the last couple of minutes, we got left, I really want to take this time to really get to know who you guys are. So I think a lot of times we do interviews like this, we talk about the people's creation, their work, but we never really talk about the person who creates it. Mm-hmm. So for just a very direct question, lack of better words, Dan, who are you?
A huge nerd, like truly just an unstoppable force of the human Wikipedia. I know things instead of having friends.
Hey, sometimes it's best.
Right.
Yeah,
my circle is very small.
I don't know.
That's okay. Sometimes it's hard to answer that question. What about you, Misha?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know, like I'm like an old withered sorcerer sitting in a tower making sound magic. Like truly, like I'm not physically able enough to be a fighter or a barbarian. So like I became a sorcerer and I just hide in my tower and make magic things all day. And the magic happens to be podcasts and short films. And like that's what it is.
Hey, y'all do a great job at it.
Great job.
Great job. Right. Like I said, I really enjoyed it, and I told Lamar when we was talking about it, I said, I need to turn you on to this podcast. It's a great podcast. You're gonna like it.
And this is big because I'm far from a reader. I'm far from audio. Especially just.
When he finally,
I'm a sports guy.
When he finally listened to it, he came back to me, bruh,
crack.
This junk is good.
Crack. no, seriously, because like I'm a sports head. I love wrestling. I love video games. I love cooking.
Right.
And so when he was like, "Yo, listen to it."
Mm-hmm.
We got the interview coming up on Thursday.
Right.
And so I started listening last Saturday,
mm-hmm.
and I'm almost done with season 1. I'm just like, I'm like. When can I find time to listen to it? No, seriously.
Before we started recording, you mentioned you were listening to it on a road trip, and that was like honestly, that was what we designed it for. That was when I actually listened to the final episodes. I did it on a road trip. I was like, this show is like most of the first season was out, and I was like, I haven't even listened to the final. I mean, I listened to the first couple of episodes because just to proof them, but that's how I listened to it, and that's definitely like how we thought of like how it can be listened to. It's great for road trips.
Great for road trips. Because I had a 2-hour drive yesterday because I was meeting up with a friend for Cinco de Mayo. I had too much Modelo's and queso dip. But I was driving. I was like, since we got the interview tomorrow, I'm gonna keep listening. So I don't want to look foolish, of course, but I'm like, yo, this is so damn good. I'm like, and I gotta give you guys credit, props, because I I am a sports guy, football, basketball, baseball guy, cook, video games. That's it.
Right.
But when I put this on, I'm like,
wow.
whoa.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm like, whoa. Because it blows your mind because it makes you think about certain things.
Right.
And so hey.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I got.
Means a lot.
Well, for me, I guess in some ways I'm an undercover nerd. You know, I like stuff like that. You know, I like Star Trek and Star Wars, and you know, I think I'm more lean towards a Star Wars person than a Star Trek person.
I'm a Trekkie, bro.
But I do like Star Trek. You know, I love like fantasy type stuff. I just like stuff that is just different and outside the lines. You know, I love stuff like that, and that draws me in. You know, when it's not I don't like vanilla stuff.
Yeah, cookie cutter stuff.
Yeah, that right there just bothers me because I'm not a vanilla person.
Far from that.
You know, right? Well, the more you know me, you realize. But I'm not afraid to be who I am.
Yeah,
you know,
that's a fact.
It took me a while to form to this. You know, I mean, I always had let me say this. I always had a form of it, but I never fully embraced it.
Okay.
You know, I still only went so far, stayed in somewhat of these parameters. I'm gonna go a little over here, but it's only gonna be 1 foot over the line, not both. You know, that kind of thing. And so even though I might have been in some circles where they might not have listened to what quote unquote we consider nerdy stuff, I still didn't mind saying I listen to that stuff. Or I watch these kind of stuff. You know, when I was around people who didn't really like reading, I read, you know. And so my point is that when you come to something with like what you guys do and have created, and you can draw this guy in, you know you created something good.
No, hands down.
You created something good, you know. And he like he said, I'm a sports guy too, you know, and he's a sports guy. And most of the time we talk about sports and music and food. That's most of our conversation. But now we've been talking about this lately.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm so glad to hear y'all sports heads really like it. My dad was a big sports guy. He was an executive producer at ESPN for a bunch of years.
Nice.
If y'all could get my dad to listen to the show, just like one time, it would be like my dream fulfilled.
I mean, when you think about it, it's sports. Just presented in a different way.
Oh man, and like I want to do a sports like a sports fiction show, like a sports drama. So bad. I want to do that so bad.
You should do it. You should do it.
Tell somebody to pay me to do it. I'll do it.
Yeah, that's the biggest.
Okay,
problem,
the main part we can't have you with.
I think we got a bad connection.
Going through a tunnel.
You guys, we thoroughly enjoyed you.
Thoroughly.
We're gonna have to get together and do this again. I really enjoyed speaking to you guys. And I mean, Jeffrey did say, he said, you're gonna like Misha. You're gonna like Misha. You know, so he did tell me that. And he didn't disappoint. You guys didn't disappoint.
You guys in California, right?
I'm in California. Dan's in New Jersey now.
Jersey City.
Oh, okay.
Who moved to Jersey City on purpose?
Me. No, honestly, when your girlfriend's really tired of LA and your company has an office in Jersey City.
I got it. That traffic in LA always bothers me.
Ruins your life.
It's the one reason, like top number one reason to leave.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why'd you leave? Traffic.
I will say this: when I was in San Pedro, I kind of like being there because the traffic wasn't as bad there, and I'm 45 minutes from LA, so I didn't mind being there.
Southern California, lovely. Los Angeles itself.
LA traffic, LA traffic, it's not bad if you're driving at 2 a.m. Like,
Right,
if you're driving
right.
at 2 a.m., highways are great. You can go anywhere for anywhere in 20 minutes. It fucking rules. Any other time of the day, it's just a nightmare.
Right, because I got family all over there, so I go to California a lot. Riverside, like I said, San Pedro, all over, like around LA.
Yeah.
And every time I go out there, I love it. Almost like I want to move here, and then I get in that traffic and say, no.
Listen, I'll say this: LA traffic, great for listening to podcasts, man.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Right. Well, you better listen to the right podcast because it might fuel your rage.
That's been my problem. I've definitely been caught in the middle of traffic, listening to something I know is just going to make me furious, just there to make me just rage at people.
But I do like Jersey City. Jersey City is a nice little alternative to New York.
Oh yeah, it's so great to live in New York, but not actually live in New York.
Yeah. Literally,
Yeah.
you can hop and skip the Hudson's right there. In New York.
Yeah.
But,
my family's in Teaneck and Newark, so we take the George Washington Bridge over. Yeah. But all right, Hope, we're gonna close out. But I want y'all to stand on the line, so I want to ask you some things offline.
You got it.
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
There y'all have it, folks.
Right. That was a great show.
Great show. Look, if I'm telling you, as a guy that not a fan of audiobooks or books in general, I'm not stupid. Don't get it twisted. And I'm I love wrestling, video games, and sports. For me, and I'm saying this with all sincerity, for me to literally, I have to find a way to listen to this audio podcast means a lot. So Misha and Daniel, they have created great content with Ars Paradoxica. I'm telling you.
Go and check them out.
I'm not gassing this up. I'm not bullshitting.
Right.
Y'all should know this by now. We keep it 100 on this I Often Wonder podcast. We keep it real. We say what we mean and we back it up. I'm telling you.
Go and check them out on Spotify.
Oh,
my gosh, it's
good.
From episode one.
No, literally, I told Mel today when we came in. I was like, we're talking with Ars Paradoxica. He's like, yeah. I was like, bro, episode one. The hook.
Yeah, I was like a fish in a hook.
Yeah.
Had me.
I'm telling you. So,
Did I wash my hands like this?
Yeah. Please. Go support their project.
Right.
Go support their project.
Right.
Like, share, comment, do what y'all do for our podcast. Do the same for them.
Right.
Because they have put out and created such great content with this.
Right.
So please go support them. Any last thoughts you got, big bro?
No, man, of course, all those who are Android users, please go to the Google Store and download the IOW Network app. We did a soft launch of the radio station. And don't forget, when you do download it, it's I.O.W. Network, no space.
We gonna have that down.
Right. iOS users also
type in.
You can just type in same way, download the app. If you are a music lover, you will love the station. If you love to hear great conversation, you will love the station. If you are an indie creator, contact us at ioftenwonder19@gmail.com.
That's the email.
We are looking for content to add to the radio station.
Don't be us no boo-boo shit.
Right. You will be vetted.
Be vetted real strict.
And if you're on your computer, you can go to Stream Meter and download the app from there. If you're one of those people who don't like to download apps, go to Stream Meter. You can listen to the radio station. I think that's it, big bro.
Great show. God willing,
we'll see you again on Monday.
Probably
Monday for the sports
Monday
show.
for the sports show, of course. IOW Sports Show. But till the next installment of the I Often Wonder podcast. It's your boy Wildcard Mar, Detroit Mail. We love you, Black Barbara Walters. Till next time.
Peace.